Well, good morning. The professionals are back on next week. I can't believe I have to start off the message like this, but I have to address being thrown under the bus. The weather is not my fault. In fact, I think it's still Scott's fault. And just follow along with me for a minute. I think he was whining a little bit, if I can be honest, about week after week, about every time it snowed, when he preached. And I think he, kind of deep down wanted, or maybe even, dare I say, prayed for a little bit of snow when someone else was preaching. So if you don't like the weather today, I hope you're with me, and it is still Scott's fault. So thank you. Favorite person. No. Thank you. I appreciate your support in this. We'll have a petition you can sign later saying it's all Scott's fault. It has nothing to do with me. If you get nothing out of the message, I hope you get that. That is the bottom line I want you to take home. If you weren't here last week, we've been doing a 2-week kind of mini-series called Playlist. And what we've been doing is we have taken popular songs, popular music, and just use them as an illustration of some biblical truths. So if you missed last week, we used Katy Perry's Unconditionally, and we used that to help illustrate the fact that though God knows us fully, he still loves us unconditionally. That's a big deal. Though God knows everything about us, he still loves us unconditionally. So anyway, we are going to continue on. We're going to have a new song today, and then hopefully it's going to help illustrate the biblical truth we want to talk about today. But before we get into that, before we kind of start things off, I have a question. Have you ever had a nickname? Ever had a nickname? You can raise your hand for this one. It's okay. Ever had a nickname? Some of you have nicknames still. Ever had a nickname, good, bad, or otherwise? Have you ever had a nickname? You've probably had all sorts of nicknames. Maybe some you have loved, and you're like, yeah, that's great. I love that nickname. I really kind of embrace that nickname. Maybe you've had nicknames that have just been really something you didn't want and just kind of hard to shake, and you kind of hate the nickname even, and it just kind of stayed there. Maybe it's a nickname a family member has kind of given you, and every Christmas or every Thanksgiving or any kind of family holiday you get together, somehow, though you're in your 40s, this nickname still happens to come up, and you just cannot seem to get rid of it. It was something that happened, when you were 8, and as family does, they don't always forget things, and it just kind of continued on. Maybe you have a nickname that you love. Maybe you have a nickname you hate. I have 2 nicknames that I want to share with you today one I kind of hoped I would have, or one I hoped would stick, and one that did stick. So to kind of set the scene, when I was in about grade 7, some friends and I were in the gym, and we were playing basketball when the bell rang, and we were still playing basketball, but we were on our way eventually to get back to class, and I decided I'm going to take a shot, and I got to say, I don't mean to brag, but it was a nice shot. It was probably one of the best shots that's ever been made in that gym. I mean, it was gorgeous. I mean, straight up and down, nothing but net. It was beautiful. Not like a little alley-oop thing. I mean, it was a three-pointer, not one of those three-pointers where you're right at the line. I was a couple feet back. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, if there was an NBA scout in a grade 7 gym that day, I mean, things might be different. I'm just saying. It was a beautiful, beautiful shot. Okay, I might be remembering it slightly differently, but it was a nice shot. And I remember one of my friends grabbing the ball and looking kind of back at me in surprise and saying, Superman. Superman. I'm like, there's a nickname. There's a nickname. I mean, you're in middle school, and you can't get a better name than Superman. I mean, that's pretty great, right? And I remember kind of having this picture in my head that, I'm going to be Superman from now on. That's going to be my nickname throughout middle school, going into high school, maybe into university, maybe into adulthood. I'm going to be known as Superman. It's going to be great. So if you want to try that out, I'm just saying, feel free. Maybe you've had something like that, though, where it's like, oh, I want that to be my nickname, and maybe like me, it just didn't stick. See, I had this picture that from now on, that's how I'm going to be known. From now on, that's going to be my nickname. That's going to be my identity. People are going to know me as Superman. Apparently, I was the only person that had that idea. I went to class, and I was kind of not paying attention to the teacher. I'm thinking, I got a new nickname. This is a turning point in my middle school career. I am going to be known as Superman now, and I'm kind of picturing this. Well, no one else was. I don't even think it made it out of the gym. It was just a one-time comment. It never stuck. I was like, what a great nickname. It never stuck. I had a friend in high school. Guy, he had big arms. He's a kind of muscular guy. His name was Pipes. And I'm like, going through high school as a 16-year-old boy, there's not much greater name than Pipes. I mean, that's a pretty great nickname to have. And maybe you kind of had a great nickname. Maybe you kind of wished you had a great nickname. Maybe you're like me, you wish you had one that kind of stuck. Maybe something came up and you're like, yeah, maybe that's going to stick. And then it doesn't. Let me tell you about the nickname that did stick. So Superman's what I wanted. The one that stuck, chicken legs. Those are different. That's different. I wanted Superman and I got chicken legs. Most of you are going to come up to me and call me chicken legs later. By the way, the laughing at that doesn't help me get over this. I'm just going to move on, pretend it didn't happen. But that's the one that stuck. Chicken legs. Chicken legs. That's not a great nickname. Pipes, that's a nickname. Chicken legs, not a great nickname. And I got to say, that stuck with me forever. I don't know when it started, but it continued with me throughout, certainly before middle school, high school. Chicken legs was my nickname. It wasn't one I appreciated, but it stuck with me. It wasn't what I wanted, but it stuck with me. Let me ask you this question. Do you think that affected the way I looked at myself? Do you think having the nickname Chicken Legs affected the way I viewed myself or the value I put on myself? I mean, I went to the pool and I didn't want to wear shorts because I was self-conscious about my chicken legs. Thanks for laughing again. I was self-conscious, I'm just kidding. I was self-conscious about the way people were going to view my body, my legs. I was self-conscious about my value. While other people are walking around all confident in themselves, I was walking around with my chicken legs. I literally, and this is a little embarrassing, but I literally in middle school had an entire basketball season wearing jeans because I did not want to show my legs. I would have 40-degree weather outside, and I would be wearing jeans because I did not want to show off my chicken legs. That 100% affected the way I viewed myself, the confidence I had in myself. Again, nickname being Pipes, that's not a bad way to walk down high school, right? You're walking down the high school hallway and people look at you and call you Pipes. I mean, you hold your head up a little bit. You don't do that when people call you chicken legs. You don't have that same kind of swagger in your step going, yeah, that's right, chicken legs. All right, you just don't have that. And you might have a nickname, you might have something that was labeled on you that you just couldn't shake. And it affected the way you saw yourself. It affected the value you put on yourself. It affected the way you thought about yourself. But let me ask you this. Who has the right to define you? Who has the right to define you? Who has the right to define you? So often we let other people define us. So often we look to the left and to the right and say, well, I'm going to let you define me. I'm going to let you put a label on me. I'm going to let that label affect the way I see myself and the way I think of myself. I'm going to let other people define who I am. In fact, some of us feel miserable because we have let others define us. We have let other people in our lives define who we are. Because of other people's opinions, because of other people's labels, because of other people's definitions, we have said, no, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. We may have thought things like this. I am stupid. We may have thought, I'm ugly. Maybe we've thought, I am unlovable. If you think that, I encourage you to go back and listen last week. I am unlovable. Maybe people have said something like that you're lazy. And because of those definitions, you have internalized them. Because of those definitions, it has gotten into you and it has affected the way you view yourself. It has affected the way you view who you are and what you are worth and who you could become. You've allowed those labels and those definitions to just kind of keep you down. I ask again, who do you let define you? Who do you let define you? Do you let people define you? We might often think of it like that, but we often let people define us. When we look around to the left and to the right and go, tell me who I am, we are letting people define us. We're letting people decide our worth. and our value. The song we're going to look at today is a very popular song. If you've listened to any the radio stations, you probably have heard it before. I think it's number 7 these days on the iTunes charts. It is called High Hopes by a band called Panic at the Disco. And it is a lot of fun, and it is really upbeat, and it's kind of a great song to crank up if we ever get some nice weather to drive down the road, have the windows open, and crank it up. It is a great, great song. But beyond that, it's a song that really just kind of talks about self-worth and value and having a positive self-image. So we're going to look at a few of the verses today. So it starts with, I had to have high hopes for a living, shooting for the stars when I couldn't make a killing. Didn't have a dime, but I always had a vision, always had high hopes. He goes on. Had to have high hopes for a living, didn't know how, but I always had a feeling. I was going to be that one in a million. Always had high hopes. Isn't that kind of a positive self-image? Is it kind of like, yeah, I can take on the world? I love that song because it's like, I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's down the road. I don't know what obstacles I'm going to face. I don't know what challenges I'm going to face. But I just know that I'm going to make it. I know it's going to be difficult. I know it's going to be challenging. I know there's going to be things that I just have to wrestle with. But I am going to make it. So why did he have such a positive outlook on his life? Why was he just kind of filled with this confidence that no matter what tomorrow brings, I'm going to have a positive future? Well, if you know the song, it's because he listened to his mama. He was listening to his mama. Mama said, fulfill the prophecy, be something greater, go make a legacy, manifest your destiny. Mama said, burn your biographies, rewrite your history, light up your wildest dreams, museum victories every day. I love this part. They said it's all been done, but they haven't seen the best of me. So I got one more run, and it's going to be a sight to see. Doesn't that put a little swagger in your step? Say, I'm just going to take on the world because I've got someone in my life who is just there behind me every step of the way going, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. Wouldn't it be great to have confidence like that? Wouldn't it be great to just have someone in your life where you're going, yeah, I can do it. I know there's going to be challenges. I know there's going to be obstacles. I know there's going to be things that I have to face. But I've just been told over and over and over in my life that you can do it. And I don't know what's going to come, but I know that the end is going to be a sight to see. I know things are going to happen for me. And maybe you were listening to that or listening to me read that, and you're going, I wish I had parents like that. I wish I had a parent who was just like there every day. Maybe you say, I wish I have a boss that just believed in me so much. I mean, I've got all these great ideas, and they hardly ever listen to me. And I just wish I had someone who was going to look at me like that. Maybe it's for you, it's a teacher going, oh, I wish just a teacher would believe in me. I wish a teacher would just see something great in me. I heard a story recently as a podcast I listened to, and it was a guy who had this idea at work, and it was something that the work didn't really but the boss just believed in this guy. And he said, I don't know how you're going to do it. There's some gaps that need to be filled. There's things you need to work out. You're going to have some challenges, but I believe in you. And I'm going to set aside $750,000 for you to go and achieve that. And again, the money aside, can you just imagine having someone with that kind of confidence in you? To go, I don't know how you're going to get there. I don't even maybe see the end, but I believe in you, and you're going to be able to do it. I believe in you, and I'm going to see something great in you. You're going to be able to achieve some amazing things because of who you are and the value you have on you. When we were talking a few weeks ago, Scott was talking, doing his carpool series. He talked about different ministries, and he talked kind of the different value statements of each ministry. And here's what he said for the student ministry at the Bridge. So it wouldn't be great if their value isn't found in how many followers they have, but it's found in who they follow. I love that. I love that as a value statement or a mission statement for the student ministry of this church. But couldn't we all use a little bit of that? Couldn't we all use a little bit of less looking to the left and to looking to the right and looking up for finding our value? When we look at Facebook or when we look at Pinterest and don't match up, or we seem to look at other people's lives and they've got it all together, Maybe people have made comments about how our house or our parenting or something, and we just haven't had that confidence. We've looked to the left and to the right, and we haven't gone up. We've looked to the left and to the right, and we said we are looking to others to define us. We're looking to others to define our value and our worth. But we need to look to God to find our worth. As much as I believe there's wisdom in listening to your mama, there's someone greater than your mama or your boss or even a spouse that you need to look to find your value and your worth and your confidence. And that's God. That's your Heavenly Father. If you've got a Bible, I encourage you to flip over to Romans 2 or press over if you got it on your phone. To Romans 2. And we're just going to look at one verse today. And I got to say, this verse was kind of my life verse growing up when I was encouraged as a teenager to have kind of a Bible verse that was kind of your life verse. Or if someone says, what's your favorite verse? This is the verse I came to. And I wish I could say it was for some deep, wonderful theological reason. But truth be told, I think it just sounded a little rebellious. So I liked it. And it sounded a little like, if you're going to pick a Bible verse, well, Jesus loves you, that's great. But let's pick a little bit of, different one. Let's pick one that's a little bit rebellious. So this is the one I picked. But there's so much more in this verse than that. There's so much more than just sounding a little rebellious. I think there's something amazing in it that I hope you don't miss today. So let's look at it. It says, do not conform to the patterns of this world. Let's say a little rebellious. I liked it as a middle school and high school student. But do not conform to the patterns of this world. What's a pattern? A pattern is basically anything a system that was there before you came along. Probably the best example of this to think of is when you went to high school, right? You went into high school and there was kind of a pattern set out before you got there, right? There was kind of a way people dressed, maybe something that the type of music that was popular or a certain group you hung out with, or it was a certain activity to get involved in. But there's a pattern set out that this is kind of what most people did, or this is what the popular people did. And chances are you started to conform that way. You started to kind of mold yourself around that way because that's what the world around you did, right? Well, it's easy to think about it when you think back to high school or middle school. The truth is we still do this all the time. We still look around us to say, how do we do things? Tell me how you're doing it. Because we allow others to define us. We allow others to affect the way we value ourselves and view ourselves and how we do things. And we're going on and on and on with the regular pattern of this world. And Paul writes, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but instead, but when we let have you ever thought about this? When we let others, people define us, we let other people control us. When we let people define us, we let other people control us. When we say, again, you go think back to the high school example, when we go into the high school and we go, okay, this is what the music we should listen to, this is the way we should dress, this is the way we should behave. I mean, basically, we're letting other people control us. We wouldn't, maybe if someone came into our room and said, you need to dress like this, and you need to listen to this music, you need to act this way, and you need to sign up for this social event, we might not do it. But the fact is, when we are letting the world around us control us or define us, we essentially let them control us. And again, we do this all the time when we look to the left and to the right instead of looking up. We look to the left and to the right, and we're going, how do you want me to be? And that's handing over control. The verse goes on. It says, do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. By the renewing of your mind. He says, basically, don't worry about how everyone else acts. Don't worry about what other people think of you. If people have definitions of you, if people have labels of you, if people have an idea of how you should behave, or if they have opinions, just let them be opinions. Just let them be opinions. Don't let them define you. Don't let change who you are. They're opinions, and that's fine. Sometimes we have people that really just are looking out for themselves, and they have an opinion about us, and they're just trying to make themselves feel better. And I think our Heavenly Father's going, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I love you. I'm crazy about you. I know you better than anybody else. No matter how well they know you, I know you better. I know you more. And I think you're amazing. I think you're wonderful. Don't worry about what they're thinking. Don't look to your left and look to your right, but look up. Look up to me for your value and your worth. Look to me for who you are. Look to me for your potential. He goes on. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Do you realize that God has a will for your life? He has a will and a desire for your life. But here's the thing. God's will for you is perfect because it's designed for the way he designed you. You ever thought about that? God has a will for your life, but the reason it's perfect is not just because it's from God, although that is true as well, but the reason it is perfect is he completely designed it for you. God knows you better than anybody else in this world will ever know. I don't care how well your friend, your parent, your spouse knows you, God knows you more. And he has a desire for your life that's designed for the way he designed you. Isn't that incredible? He looks around and goes, I don't need another so-and-so, I don't need another so-and-so, I need you. I made you. If there's two of the same person, I wouldn't need both of you. I made you. And my will for your life is different from the will of other people's lives. So he's saying, don't worry about other people, worry about you. Worry about the way I designed you. And here's the thing, I think God sees more in you than you see in yourself. I think God sees more potential, more value in you than you will ever see in yourself. I don't know what type of shows you like. I like a lot of these things on the History Channel. And one of my favorites is it's kind of history. It's one of those weird ones on the History Channel. But I love watching American Restoration. And if you haven't seen it, basically this show takes this guy named Rick, he owns this restoration company, and he will take these old kind of rusty, beaten up things and bring them back to life. He takes an old gas pump or he takes an old Pepsi machine and he just restores them and brings them back to life. And what's kind of funny about this show, and it always follows the same format, but someone will bring something in and the person's always kind of just hoping he can do something with it. And he's going, yeah, I don't know. This was in my family. I'd love to have it back, but I don't know. Maybe it's just for the junkyard. And this guy, Rick, who owns the company, is like a little kid. He's just like giddy. He's looking at it and go, oh, no. See, what we're gonna clean it off, and we're gonna rechrome this, and we're gonna paint this, and we're gonna do custom decals here, and we're gonna do all these things. And he has this picture of what it can become, and he goes, oh my goodness, do not throw it out. Let me restore it. I'm gonna do this. And eventually the person says, okay, I'll pay you. Let's do this, get this thing done. He goes off, and then they call him back, a few weeks later, a few months later for the reveal. And there's always this big reveal. The thing's covered up, and they have to reveal it. And again, the person comes back and is a little excited, but doesn't really know what to expect. And they come back and go, okay, well, I hope this is going to come, and I hope it's close to what I want. And then Rick just pulls off the curtain and shows them things. And the owner just gets so excited and goes, oh my goodness, I had no idea what it could become. I just had no possible imagination in my head of what this thing was going to look like in the end. And then they're both excited and they're both thrilled. And what I think is great about that is Rick has this incredible, amazing ability, because he's been doing it for so long, to look past the dirt, to look past the grime, to look past the broken glass and the rust and all the things that make us go, oh, it's worth nothing, we need to throw it out. And to look past that and see its potential, to see its incredible potential for what it could become. And I think God is like that when it comes to us. In fact, I know God is like that when it comes to us. He looks past the dirt and the grime and the brokenness and the dents and the rust and goes, there's so much more there than you see. So I think God sees past our flaws to your potential. I think God sees past those dents that everyone else points out. People look at you and see the dents and the scrapes, and you've gone through difficult times in your life, and it just seems like there's too much to fix. And God goes, no, don't you dare give up. There's so much more in you than you see. There's so much more in you than others see. Just let me get my hands on you. Just let me get my hands on you. I have an idea of what you can become. Look to me. Don't look to what others are saying. What if today you stopped letting others define you? What if today you said, enough is enough. I'm not going to let others define me anymore. I'm going to stop looking to my left and to my right, and I'm going to look up for my value and worth. What if today we let God tell us who we are, what we are worth, and what we will become? Would that be a changing day for you? Would you look at your life a little bit differently? If you stopped looking around for your value and your worth and you looked up and you're going, God, you tell me who I am. You tell me what you want me to become. Because I believe that you see more in me than I see in myself, that you see more in me than others see in me. When I was a youth pastor for a number of years, there's a poster that I came across that I just loved, and I put it up in the youth room, and it hung there for years because I just loved the idea of it. And the poster helped illustrate this point. It helped illustrate this point because it pointed out, though people had disasters in their life, some cases just huge flaws, God still used them in incredible ways. Some of the heroes of our faith, we look at them and we do look at some of the biographies and we go, wow, they were messes. Some of them were worse than us. But we look at them and go, oh my goodness, God still used them in incredible ways. Here's the poster. I'm going to read it so you can, because you probably can't see it all. But it says, so you seriously think that God can't use you? It says, Noah was a drunk. Abraham was too old. Isaac was a daydreamer. Jacob was a liar. Leah was ugly. Joseph was abused. Moses had a stuttering problem. Gideon was afraid. Simon had a long hair and was a womanizer. Rahab was a prostitute. Jeremiah and Timothy were too young. David had an affair and was a murderer. Elijah was suicidal. Isaiah preached naked. We don't usually talk about that. Jonah ran from God. Naomi was a widow. Job went bankrupt. Peter denied Christ. The disciples fell asleep while praying. That'd be embarrassing. Martha worried about everything. Some of you can relate. The Samaritan woman was divorced. Zacchaeus was too small. Paul was too religious. Timothy had an ulcer, and Lazarus was dead. Do you seriously think that God can't use you? I don't mean to minimize anything that's going on in your life, but tell me what is so big that God can't get past. Tell me what issue you're dealing with that God can't look past that and use you. Tell me what dents and rust and difficulties are in your life that God has just written you off. There is nothing in your life that God has said is just too big. I just can't overcome it. I'm going to write you off. God's looking at you. Others might have written you off. Others may have said, you just have too much going on. But God looks at you and goes, oh my goodness, if you only saw what I see, if you only saw the end results, oh my goodness, you have no idea what I see in you. Because the fact is that God sees way more in you than you see in yourself. God sees way more in you than you will ever see in yourself. I mentioned, I hope you've got a mama or a sibling or a spouse or somebody in your life who's just cheering you on. But the fact is, no one's going to be a bigger cheerleader of you than your Heavenly Father. He knows you fully and still loves you unconditionally. He knows the dents and he knows the brokenness in your life. And he goes, none of that is too big. I have a plan for you, and it's going to be amazing. Just let me have you. Just let me have you, and I think you'll be amazed about what I'm going to do. I'm going to invite the band to come up, and we're going to close out with this song, High, High Hopes. And I love this verse, and I encourage you guys to just going to shout it out as you sing along with the band. But it says, fulfill the prophecy. Be something greater. Go make a legacy. Manifest your destiny. They say it's all been done, but they haven't seen the best of me. So I got one more run, and it's going to be a sight to see. Isn't that incredible? I just hope that today would be a different day for you. I hope that you go from here going, yeah, I'm going to stop letting others define me, and I'm going to let my Heavenly Father define me. I'm going to let my Heavenly Father define who I am. And yeah, the first part of my life, or the first incidents, there's just difficulties in my life, but it is going to be a sight to see. I've got one more run, and it's going to be amazing. I've got one more run, and I'm going to put my value in my Heavenly Father instead of the people around me.